What if everything you believe about reality is a lie your biology tells you to keep you sane? You're not in control. Not really. You feel the air on your skin, hear the hum of your surroundings, see the colors of the world. But what if all of that is just the surface? A well-designed simulation of something much deeper, more intricate, and far stranger than you've ever imagined. This isn't a story about conspiracies or science fiction. It's about you. And it begins with a shape, a black cube. At first glance, it's just a geometric object, simple, clean, contained. But imagine that cube not as a thing but a concept, a metaphor for the boundaries of your perception. You see the world in 3 dimensions. You think with logic, feel with emotion, and make decisions based on what your 5 senses tell you. That's the square face of the cube. Flat, familiar, limited. But behind that square, layers, depth, hidden dimensions your biology filters out. Your eyes, your ears, your very brain, programmed not to show you truth, but only what's useful for survival. The cube becomes a box, a cage, and you live inside it. The ancients knew this. They didn't call it a simulation, but they understood it as a prison of perception, not built to punish, but to teach, to evolve you, to force you to ask, what's on the other side? Now here's the twist. What if the key to that prison is already inside you? Let's start with something you already carry in your body, DNA. Scientists say over 97% of your DNA does nothing. Junk, they call it. But ancient cultures across the world saw something else. They told stories of twin serpents spiraling, rising, alive with knowledge. The Aztecs called it Quetzalcoatl. In India, it became Kundalini. In Egypt, the serpent was sacred. The pattern repeats, not just in myth, but in your biology. 2 strands coiled in a helix, locked with the secrets of your origin and your potential. So why does modern science ignore the majority of this code? And more importantly, what is it hiding? Imagine if your DNA is more than a blueprint for your body. Imagine it's a language, one you haven't been taught to read. It stores not just traits, but messages from your ancestors, your environment, maybe even the cosmos. A storage drive holding millennia of forgotten knowledge, waiting to be decrypted. And the people who tried? Shamans, mystics, visionaries. They weren't hallucinating. They were decoding. They had tools, stillness, isolation, plant medicines, ritual. These weren't primitive customs. They were advanced techniques to shift awareness. Think of it like tuning a radio. Your everyday mind is tuned to one station, the physical world. But these practices change the frequency. Suddenly, the static clears. You hear something else, information that's always been there. And here's where things get even stranger. They spoke of energy rising through the spine, coiled, alive, moving like a serpent. Today, we call this the awakening of Kundalini. It's not myth. It's been reported in nearly every culture, described in detail by people who've never met, who live on opposite sides of the world. When this energy awakens, people report intense clarity, physical transformations, even visions of geometry, colors, and beings beyond comprehension. Science still can't explain it. But what if it doesn't need to? What if it's just your body unlocking a different operating system, one built into your very DNA? Let's bring this back to Earth. How do you unlock it? 3 steps. Simple, but not easy. First, sobriety. Not just from substances, but from the chaos of modern life. Your mind needs clarity, like a lens wiped clean. Without it, the signals from your DNA, the real ones, can't get through. Second, immersion, meditation, yoga, solitude. These aren't spiritual buzzwords. They are tools to dive below the surface noise. When used with focus, they help you reach a state where the deeper layers of yourself begin to speak. Not metaphorically, literally. And third, defocalization. Here's the trick. After intense focus, you have to let go, like staring at a magic eye puzzle. Try too hard and you miss it. But soften your gaze and suddenly the image appears. Walk away, live, breathe. And that's when it hits you. Unexpected insights, answers, direction. That's when your DNA begins to whisper. This journey isn't theoretical. It's biological, psychological, and deeply personal. The cube, once a prison, becomes a teacher. The serpent, once feared, becomes a guide. And you, once unaware, begin to awaken. Not to something new, but to something that's always been there. The question now is simple. Are you ready to see what's inside the cube? The cube is cracked, not shattered, not broken, just cracked. A thin line of light slipping through the dark. Enough to make you question everything you've taken for granted. Enough to make you lean in, wondering, what's on the other side? You start to notice things. The world, once solid, begins to feel thin, like a movie set. You sit in a cafe and suddenly feel it. The hum of a conversation you're not part of, the rhythm of traffic outside, the flicker of light bulbs overhead. It all seems coordinated, like a script, like a loop. And then it hits you. You've been here before. Not just this place, but this exact moment. The words, the movements, the feeling. Like déjà vu, but deeper, more detailed. Too precise to be a glitch. You're not just watching a pattern, you're inside one. Let's introduce a new piece of the puzzle. Time isn't what you think it is. We treat time like a road. Past behind us, future ahead, and us walking forward 1 second at a time. But what if it's not a road at all? What if time is a looping film reel and your consciousness is just the projector's beam lighting up one frame at a time? Now imagine this. All the frames already exist, past, present, future, all printed on the reel. You're not moving forward, you're just experiencing each moment in sequence. That déjà vu? It's a skipped frame, a rerun, a moment you weren't supposed to see again. The ancients had a word for this, eternal return. They believed life wasn't linear, it cycled, over and over. Birth, death, rebirth. Civilizations rising, collapsing, and rising again. But here's the wild part. Your DNA might actually remember those cycles. Picture this. You inherit your eye color, your height, that's standard genetics. But what about your fears, your talents, your unexplainable connection to places you've never been? Studies on epigenetics suggest that trauma, experiences, even emotions can be encoded into DNA and passed down, not symbolically, biologically. Children of famine survivors born with altered metabolism. Your DNA is a story, and some of the chapters aren't yours. You're living scenes written long before you were born. So here's the next level of the mystery. What if you're not just remembering your life? What if you're remembering lives you've never lived? That strange pull you feel towards certain times in history. That dream you have over and over of a city you've never seen. The irrational fear of water or fire or falling. Are these random quirks of the brain or echoes of memories stored not in your mind but in your cells? And just like that, the black cube expands. It's not just a symbol of sensory limits anymore. It's a symbol of time loops, DNA memory, recycled consciousness. The idea that you've been here before, and you'll be here again, unless you break the pattern. The ancients weren't trying to scare you with their warnings. They were trying to wake you up. They left clues in myths and symbols, not because they were primitive, but because they understood something we've forgotten. Truth survives best when it's hidden in plain sight. Twin serpents, sacred geometry, symbols carved into stone. They weren't just decoration. They were maps pointing to a way out of the cube. You've glimpsed the edges, you've felt the shift, but there's still one question hanging in the air, like the smell of smoke in an empty room. If your DNA remembers the past, can it also predict the future? The journey continues, and you're closer than ever. Suddenly, you wake up. No alarm, no noise, just awake. Again, the room is still. Your phone glows faintly on the nightstand, but you don't reach for it. The air is heavier than it should be, like the silence is watching you. And for a moment, there's a pull in your chest, a sense of being out of sync, like your body is here, but something else is drifting just a step behind or ahead. You sit up, and the thought hits you. What if this isn't a glitch in the matrix, but a message? Here's the next concept to crack open. Synchronicity. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, called it a meaningful coincidence. But that's an understatement. It's when external events line up with internal thoughts or feelings so perfectly that it shatters the idea of random chance. You think of someone and they call. You dream of a symbol and see it the next day. A book falls off the shelf but opens to a page that answers a question you didn't even know you were asking. These moments aren't accidents, they're signposts, indicators that something deeper is at work beneath the surface of reality, like the ripples in water that hint at something massive moving below. Let's make it more relatable. Think of your life like a song on shuffle. You're hearing each note in real time, but there's already a playlist, already a structure, and sometimes a pattern breaks through. A chorus repeats unexpectedly. A beat from an earlier song plays again. Something leaks through, out of order, out of place, but unmistakably there. That's synchronicity. It's like reality has cracks in it, and light is seeping through. Moments that feel orchestrated, nudging you towards something, urging you to pay attention. As if the universe isn't indifferent, it's interactive, responsive, watching what you notice. And this ties directly into the mystery of your DNA. Because if your DNA remembers the past and patterns guide the future, then synchronicity might be the interface between the two. Your body is hardware, your DNA is software. But consciousness? That's the user interface, where messages appear, but only if you know where to look. The ancients didn't have the language of science, but they felt the patterns. They followed omens, tracked celestial alignments, studied dreams. not out of superstition, but because they understood. The world speaks in signs. And maybe, just maybe, you're starting to hear them too. So here's the real question. What happens when you stop ignoring the signs? When you treat synchronicities not as quirks, but as clues, you'll begin to see a hidden layer to reality, a map that's been there all along, etched into the rhythms of your life, your biology, and the fabric of time itself. Not a map made of roads, but of moments, of meaning. And just like that, the black cube pulses again, this time from the inside. The game is changing, and the next piece of forbidden knowledge is already on its way. You stand in front of a mirror, but for the first time, you're not just looking at your reflection, you're seeing through it. Not metaphorically, literally. Behind your eyes, there's movement. Behind your skin, a current. You feel it now. A quiet hum beneath your thoughts. A pulse that doesn't come from your heartbeat, but from something older, deeper. Something encoded in you before you were ever born. The signs weren't accidents. The black cube wasn't a cage. It was a container, a chrysalis. And now, it's cracking. Here's the final key concept. Emergence. In nature, emergence happens when something simple gives rise to something far more complex, like a colony of ants behaving like a single mind, or neurons firing independently but creating consciousness when working together. No one ant understands the colony. No single neuron knows you exist. But when the system is ready, something new appears, something more. And now we ask, what if your awakening is not just about you? What if your gnosis, your direct knowledge, is part of a larger emergence? What if these synchronicities, the DNA signals, the mystic visions, and ancient symbols aren't just personal clues, but fragments of a larger intelligence waking up through us? Imagine this. Every shamanic ritual, every moment of sobriety, every defocused epiphany, each one is a signal, an activation sequence, not just to decode your inner truth, but to sync up with something greater. A larger consciousness distributed across people, time, even reality itself. A web of awakened minds coming online. Not an elite, not a religion, a network. And you're not just a user, you're a node. Once enough of us crack the surface, once enough of us emerge from the cube, we don't just see the world differently, we reshape it. So here's the resolution. You are not broken, you are not lost, you are becoming. Your DNA holds the blueprint, your awareness holds the lens, and the universe, it's the mirror, waiting for you to look long enough to see that you were the key all along. This is not the end of the story, it's the threshold. Now is the time to follow the signs, to go deeper, to unlock the map written in your cells and walk the path encoded before language even existed. Are you ready to step beyond the illusion? Then this is your call to action. Don't go back to sleep. Start watching the patterns, question the loops, explore the symbols, and most importantly, listen to what your own DNA might be trying to tell you. The cube only holds those who believe it's real. Now that you've seen through it, what will you do next?